The early game in Rise of Kingdoms is where players make the most mistakes, and they also can make some of the best decisions for their account. Changing their account from an account that's going to be almost useless in their first KVK to becoming an absolute monster first KVK regardless of what troops they use and almost regardless of what commanders they use. So today, I'll be giving you my best early game tips pretty much all in one video. I'll give you my top 10 or so tips that will help you get the most value in Rise of Kingdoms. If you're looking to improve your account in the early game, maybe you're not even in KVK or up to KVK 3, this is the best way to do it. If you're interested in doing a jumper account, this is another amazing video for you. And if you're just interested in ways to possibly even improve your account in Season of Conquest, you definitely should check out today's video. So since I've been playing my Siege Restart account a lot more recently, I've been really looking into ways to improve that account. What can I do in the early game? Since it's been over 2 years since I've really played the early game properly, it's been quite a fun experience, and I think that I've learned a few more things along the way that I haven't truly mentioned in a lot of my videos, and I've also put out tips over multiple videos for the early game, which will kind of be condensed down into this video. If you are interested in any of those videos, I'll probably have cards up in the top whenever I speak about specific tips. So if there's a specific tip that I elaborate on in a different video, I will have a card up in the top that you will see come up, and you can click that and go to a video to learn more about the tip that I give you. Now let's begin off with the first tip, and that is to rush your city hall pretty much as quick as you can. In the earlier stages of the game, unlike other games, Clash of Clans, for example Clash of Clans, you got games, all the other city building games, most players recommend don't rush your city hall, upgrade everything to max, then take your city hall up. But in Rise of Kingdoms, it's very different. In Rise of Kingdoms, if you have a level 7 city hall, you are going to be weaker than 100% of the players in your whole entire kingdom, because if you have a level 16 city hall, you're already stronger than 100% of the players. So trying to get your city hall up to the highest levels possible is going to be the best thing for you to do. It allows you to unlock the next levels of technology in your academy. So for example, you unlock tier 2 troops at City Hall 8. No point sitting at City Hall 7 to max all your buildings unless you're in a jumper account, which I'll speak about later. But if you have a City Hall 8, you can go and get tier 2 units who instantly get a massive advantage on your tier 1 units. At City Hall 8, you also get access to more buildings. City Hall 16, you get access to equipment, and that is something you can start off right away. And in Rise of Kingdoms, unlike other games where you get matchmade based on your City Hall and stuff like that, Rise of Kingdoms, you're up against everyone in your kingdom. There is no bias. If someone has a City Hall 25 and you have a City Hall 16, they've had equipment for an extra 3 months possibly. You haven't, they're going to demolish you. They've saved up their equipment. They get access to more events. They get access to more troops, faster training, more buffs. They get access to higher alliances, since higher alliances don't really want people who are just leveling up their farms to max. They want people who are leveling up all their things to the highest levels they possibly can and skipping stuff that isn't as important till they reach the end game. That's what most alliances are looking for. So getting the City Hall high as possible is extremely important. Then the next thing I can give you is using your items in moderation. I know I just said get your City Hall as high as possible, but now I'm kind of contradicting it. Well, yes and no. In Rise of Kingdoms, speed-ups are probably the most valuable thing that any free-to-play player has. A whale, speed-ups are nothing. Free-to-play players, though, speed-ups are going to be pretty much what stop you from fighting or enable you to fight. So what you need to do is with buildings, all of these other things, so buildings, research, training, healing, use those speed-ups when it is needed. You don't need to upgrade a building urgently. For example, maybe you're going to bed. There's no point speeding up your city hall until you wake up, maybe. Maybe you don't even speed it up at all. Maybe you know that you don't have the resources to actually take it beyond that city hall level. No point speeding up. Just wait, gather some resources, recuperate a little bit, and then you speed up the city hall and then you work from there. That's what I'd recommend doing. The most valuable things to use speed ups on are upgrading training buildings. So not the actual training building themselves, but if you're upgrading a building such as the archery range and you want to use speed ups on that, that is good, because when you use speed ups on archery range, you are kind of using double speed ups. You're using your building speed ups, which count as building speed ups and allow you to train troops quicker. So that is like a double speed up. Using speed ups on the academy is another version of a double speed up, because while your academy is upgrading, you can't use it. But if you use speed ups on that, you get access to use it quicker, which is once again more like a double speed up. For troop training, I highly recommend only training a troop that you're really going to use, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But really, don't train any troops that aren't tier 3 and above. Also, speaking of troops, the next tip I can give you is train as much as possible. Out of all the buildings in your city, the most valuable buildings for you will definitely be your city hall, your alliance center, and your research center. And then it's all your troop buildings, because they are going to be a great way to increase power just passively. Past the super early game, troops will be the main way that you increase your power. Most players who are playing Rise of Kingdoms increase their power from their troops. If you're past KVK 1, all the power you get comes from troops, building, and research. In the early game, it might not be that case, but for most players, after KVK 1, troops are everything. So I'd recommend making sure you at least have troops running 24/7. Once you have enough troops to fill a march, I'd still recommend you keep training. In the early game especially, you want to train as many troops as you can, but try and save the training speed-ups until you really need them. Or if you don't have a full march of troops, you can consider using some of your speed-ups so that you can at least, for example, gather more resources. At that point, it becomes viable because you are getting resources for your speed-ups. And also, I'd recommend not using gems on training troops. That's a big mistake a lot of players have, where they just spam the instant button until they run out of gems. Really bad value. It's actually the worst value in the game for a lower spender free-to-play, so I'd recommend definitely not using gems to train troops. Then now tip number 4 is push your VIP. In the really early stages of the game, I'd recommend pushing to VIP 6 as soon as possible. VIP 6 unlocks the second building queue, which is extremely important, obviously, for fairly obvious reasons, because you can work on doing your city hall upgrades, such as a barracks, which is going to require a farm, and then also work on doing your wall upgrade, because every single city hall, you will need to upgrade your wall. So I'd highly recommend what you do is, you get to city hall 6, you just work on these two things. The one building you are required to upgrade to city hall 8, it would always be a different building. So for example, for me to get city hall 8, I need level 7 barracks, I need a level 7 wall. At city hall 8, to get city hall 9, I may need a level 8 hospital and a level 8 wall. You're always going to need a level 8 wall. A wall will always require a tavern at its level, and a tavern will always require a quarry at its level. So I'd recommend always getting those buildings up with one builder, and then whichever building is required, so let's say I need a level 8 hospital, I'd use my other builder working on that. And the best way to get access to that other builder at a very consistent way, in a very controlled form, is to unlock VIP 6. So this is where all your gems should be going early game. All your other gems, just every gem in the early game should go straight to VIP until like Isongye comes to the Wheel of Fortune, when you can consider unlocking him. I'd also recommend by the end or even the middle of KVK 1, try and get the VIP 10 exclusive chest. This is the most valuable thing in the whole entire game. Once you go from VIP 9 to VIP 10, it's the cheapest amount of gems you will pay in the whole game for the amount of gold heads you will get over time. So try and get VIP 10. By the time you reach KVK 2 and beyond, you definitely want to be at least VIP 12. I'd recommend pushing to that. And then for all you late game players, for free-to-players especially, at VIP 15 is what the point where you kind of stop spending gems on VIP. That's where it becomes way less boost for the cost that you're paying. After VIP 15, like this is where you get a massive boost in stats and stuff. The rest is, yeah, you're getting boosts and obviously you're going to have advantages over people, but the price increases exponentially and it becomes to the point where it doesn't make sense to push past VIP 15. Then tip number 5 is to be in a good alliance. Alliances are everything in Rise of Kingdoms. If you're not in an alliance, you're going to go nowhere. Alliances give you access to helps, they give you access to territory, they give you access to alliance gifts, they give you access to rallying barbarian forts and lohars. They are one of the best things in the whole of Rise of Kingdoms that you should be aiming for. If you are playing in the early game, your main goal is not to gain as much power as possible. Your main goal is to get enough power to be in a good alliance. You can always just train 1 billion troops if you want, but if you're by yourself, first of all, the game is really boring, and second, you're missing out on all the benefits of actually being in an alliance. Also, being in an alliance allows you to access a lot more of these monument rewards. I know a lot of the early game monument rewards are stuff like entering the Bronze Age, the whole kingdom, and also killing 200,000 barbarian troops or exploring 30 million fog. But after like the first encounter, you just start to get into alliance stuff. Kill 40 barbarian forts. 30 alliances have 65 members. Your kingdom built 500 flags during this chapter. Your alliance controlled an altar. You can see that it really becomes alliance focused after like the really early stages of the game. So being in a good alliance on day 1 is going to allow you to push your account ahead of way more people. I can tell you, if you did a comparison of having an account not in alliance compared to having an account in alliance and both players played very actively, you would see the account in the alliance would skyrocket while the other account would just grow very slowly and they really wouldn't go too far. So an alliance is the best thing. Plus they give you access to Sanctums of Hope and all the Sanctums and altars, and when you capture those you get 500 gems, you get resources, you get speed ups, you get teleports, stuff that are extremely good. So keep that in mind as well. Alliances are going to benefit you crazily and they definitely are something you should definitely be trying to focus on. Your main goal should be trying to get into that top alliance as soon as possible. My tip number 6, which is for the very early game, is to inflate your power. You might be thinking, what does that mean? How would I inflate my power numbers? Well, the easiest way to do this is through commanders. In the super early stages of the game, commander power is all your power. You can see I've got 110,000 total power right now. 6,000 of that is building, 6,000 of that is technology, 18,000 of that is troop, 78,000 of that is commander power, because each commander you own gives you some amount of power based on their skills, their level, their star level, and their talents. So your main goal to be increasing power in the early game should be having your commanders at a really high level, where at least you've got access to a lot more of their skills. You have to get your commanders to at least star level 3 as well. Also, I'd recommend upgrading your commanders. The best commanders to use XP on in the early game are A, whichever commander you're using to kill barbarians, since they will give you more XP in the long run. B, all your gathering commanders to at least level 37. And also C, whichever commanders you plan to use on the open field. So for example, the account I'm running right now, the second I get Matilda, she's going to earn a lot of my experience terms since she is a commander I'm going to use on the open field a lot. When I get Joan of Arc, she's going to get a lot of my XP since she's a commander I will use on the field a lot. So make sure you are leveling up your important commanders, but even then, you can level up some of your lower level commanders. For example, Markswoman or Pericles. These commanders which you may not end up using. Maybe you want to use Pericles, but you might not use him. Take him to like level 10. It's going to be 3,000 extra power for a commander that is really easy to level up. You just kill a barbarian or two. Maybe you use one of your 1,000 XP tomes. Something like that is a possible option that you could use to inflate your power by at least 9 to 10,000 power. For example, I just upgraded a bunch of these commanders to level 4 the other day. That gave me 3,000 power, which got me over the limit I needed to stay in the Alliance. So make sure you are using ways to inflate your power a little bit. For people who pass City Hall 16, if you have equipment that's not on a commander, just put it on any commander. It will inflate your power numbers by around 2,000-3,000 more. So make sure you are trying to do that as well. Speaking of leveling up commanders, the best way to do this is by constantly fighting barbarians. And that brings me to action points. I'd highly recommend you spend all your action points as soon as you can. If you have a bunch of action points stockpiled, like you can see, I now have a total of 654 action points. I should be spending those and trying to get it pretty much down to 0. You don't really want to have action points in the Overflow and Rise of Kingdoms. It's always going to be a bad thing for your account. So always stay below your maximum number. For the early game, it's always going to be 1,500. So I highly recommend staying below 1,500 action points. A, it's going to allow you to kill more barbarians, giving you more of those juicy rewards such as XP tomes, gems, speed ups, resources, arrows of resistance. Also, you will get access to things in events such as Lohar's Trial, where you get access to things such as Lohar Sculptures, more speed ups, more resources, for the same action points that you would be spending before. Along with action points come action point bottles, and in the very late game, you usually save those. You save them for a big event like a KVK, or pre-KVK, or even a Mightiest Governor. But in the early game, AP bottles are best used during Lohar's Trials to stock up those Lohar necklaces to pretty much get Lohar to a super high level. Lohar is a really easy commander to level up. You basically get access to him by opening up these bone necklaces, and each bone necklace has a chance to give you a Lohar summon item. The summons item are Lohar's Buckler, and also Lohar's Longbow. Each one summons a different rarity of Lohar, and Lohar, the different rarity can obviously give you more rewards. The way you get this, killing Barb. So in the early game, when Lohar's Trial comes around, the first 2-3 times it comes around, use all your AP and just destroy as many Lohars as you can. Then after the event finishes, you start to summon your Lohars and you rally them with your alliance. That's the best way to get access to more Lohar sculptures, and also it's going to give you much more value for your action points. The next tip I can give you is to gather resources. Resources, even in the early game, are really good, and even if you can only gather a small number, like my Constance here is only gathering 46,000 resources, it's still really good to gather those resources. Resources are going to be extremely good for your account, and the more you have, the better. There is no such thing as too many resources in any stage of Rise of Kingdoms, so make sure you are gathering as much as you possibly can, and as you work your account up in the levels, you'll be able to gather higher resource nodes and completely finish them. So what your main goal should be is trying to get as many troops as you can to gather as many resource nodes as you can, and that's also where technology comes into play as well. The higher your technology, the faster you're going to gather, the more efficiently you're going to gather. Also, if you have higher level troops, the more they can hold and bring back to your city, so you have to use less troops, and they'll have more chance of not being attacked. So make sure you are gathering and also working on some of the economic technology. Keep in mind you can get all the technologies up to Metal Guri for free by just going out onto the map, scouting some fog, and clicking onto the tribal villages. They give you a chance of getting some of that technology literally for free. All you have to do is just click them, and then there's a chance you get the technology. Keep in mind you do have to have your academy at the level of that technology to unlock it. So for example, if I've got an academy level 6, which I currently do, I can't unlock sickle level 3 from those towns. My academy does have to be level 7. But that is a good way to save yourself a lot of resources and a lot of speed ups in the early game by just going and tapping those villages. It's going to give you all of this technology, pretty much all this. You get everything here I haven't spent a single speed up on, not a single bit of resources. It's all been leveled up from just clicking on random towns in the middle of nowhere. The next tip I can give you is trying to finish these daily objectives as much as possible. In the really early game, these are like the most valuable things ever. You're going to get 100 gems, which is always going to be good. You're going to get a gold key, which in the early game is crazy. That's a way you get more commanders, more XP, more stars to level up your commanders, more commander heads. Everything you need in the early game is in gold keys. So getting gold keys literally for free by doing daily objectives is amazing. You get a magic chest, which I know sounds very magical, but what it gives you is a chance of a teleport, a chance of a talent reset, and a chance of a random TP. So those are really good. And you get epic commander sculptures. the higher your city hall goes, the more epic commander sculptures you get, and the more items you get overall. Some of these chests start to give you some very valuable things. Like in the end game, doing your daily objectives currently is the only way to access some items in the game. So make sure you get into the habit of doing these daily objectives. It's always going to be great. The second last tip I'm going to give you for people who haven't fully started Rise of Kingdoms yet, maybe your account is under City Hall level 16, join a jumper group. Jumper groups are a great way to get a massive head start. And the way they work is you get your City Hall up to level 7, don't take it beyond that. And then you take this City Hall 7 account, already stocked up with commanders, already stocked up with XP, resources, speed ups, all these things that you need to make a good account, to a brand new kingdom. And with that group, you have a already stable leadership who are going to know what they're doing in the early game. They played the game before, they know how to advise newer players, and they help you run a stable kingdom along with an account that you already have an advantage over compared to a bunch of other players, because you've got an account that's already got power, it's already got troops trained, it's already got gathering commanders at a good level, you've already gotten a bunch of rewards for being in your old kingdom, you've already got higher VIP, more gems. It's a great way to pretty much allow yourself to go to a new kingdom with an account that you've already been working on. So joining a jumper group is great, and you can do that by either joining my Discord, joining Chisco's Discord, I know he's got a big community there, also joining the official Rise of Kingdoms Discord. My Discord will be linked in the description if you do want to join it, so I will just quickly put that out there, and that's where you can probably find a bunch of jumper groups. There's always one advertising in my jumper group section. And then the last tip I'm going to give you is focusing in on one troop type. In the early game, all your technology is much harder to upgrade compared to the end game. In the end game, you can just do whatever, upgrade anything, and in the end, you're going to have enough speed ups to get all the tier 5 units. But in the early game, where pretty much any small amount of technology and stats are extremely valuable, like 2% attack in the early game is pretty good. I'm not even joking, that's a good boost. But in the end game, 2% attack's whatever, so you might go and get some cav stats and go get some infantry. But in the early game, you want to focus in on one troop type. You decide which troop you want. So for example, this account's going to be Siege. So once I jump to my final kingdom, all of my resources are going into getting Siege. I don't care about infantry, I don't care about archers, I don't care about cavs. Yes, I will probably still unlock them all at the tier 3 level, but after that, when I get to tier 4, my first choice is going to be Siege. And then I'll go and unlock the other troops barely. I'll get the minimum I need to unlock them, and I'll just unlock them. And then I'll work even more on my Siege, and then I'll go back and do some of these more generic technologies. So try and focus in on that one troop. That means for commanders, for equipment, for everything you need, you focus in on that one troop up till around KVK 3 where the meta shifts. In the really early game, the meta is focusing on one troop because that's how you get access to more commanders for that one troop. You focus in on it, you really get those commanders to high levels, you pretty much max out their equipment, max out their skills, and then you've got solid, powerful marchers for your KVK. So instead of spreading it out and doing cavalry, infantry, archer marchers, you just do one, maybe just cavs, maybe just infantry, maybe just archers. Obviously, when you reach Season 3, the meta does shift. You start to use 3 troop types, that being all 3, so cavs, infantry, and archers. But in pre-KVK up to KVK 2, you just focus in on that one troop, and you slightly work on the technology for the other troops, but don't make that your main priority. Just work in on the one troop you really need to have yourself the best chance of beating people in your first KVKs. So overall, the early game is always going to be very fun, and if you mess up in the early game, it's not the end of the world. It's easy to restart. I've done early game at least 2 times now, and I really enjoy it. And the best way to see me playing the early game, which I haven't done in super long, especially on an account where I will be only using Siege commanders in my KVKs, is to come to my live stream tomorrow at 8 UTC. At 8 UTC, which is around 6 PM Australian time, I will be going live and I'll just be playing my Siege restarts. The best place to ask me questions. You will get on-time live answers from me. I'm always reading chat. I'm always responding to people. Plus, you'll see me doing some of the tricks I'm talking about in today's video. For example, working on my account and seeing how I'm doing it. You can ask me what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. Anything you want to ask me is best done in that live stream. So the link for the stream will be in the description. Hopefully, I may add it a bit later after the video is released because I still have to set up the stream. And I will also put it in the pinned comment at some point. So if you are interested in the stream, I highly recommend checking it out. And you can join my Discord if you want to get pinged about it. Now, I just want to say thank you for watching and hope to see you in the next one.